Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cheerleaders, welcome to the episode of Tatami Talk. My name is Juan. This is my partner Anthony. This is a judo podcast for judo players by two judo players. So, Anthony, I know we kept everybody on the edge of the seat about it, but how's your tumor?
We don't know if it's a tumor yet, but the long story short, I don't want to make a whole episode about it, but we talked about it, how I had some health issues. I had all these things around my body for over a decade now that I thought were lipomas. And recently 2 of them have been getting bigger. And one of them has been bothering me during judo when because it's on my forearm, it's affecting my grip. At first I thought it was carpal tunnel, but I noticed it hurts more when the bump is swelled up. So I decided to get it cut out 2 weeks ago now, 2.5 weeks ago. Yeah. And once they cut me open, they're like, that's not a lipoma. And I'm like, oh crap, it's going to be one of those. And then they're like, it's in way too deep. We can't get it out. And they're like, usually if it's a lipoma, when you cut you open, it just pops right out. Right. I'm sure some of those people have seen YouTube videos of popping videos. Like, it was popular for a while that my wife was watching it.
They're still popular, man.
They're still popular. All right. I can't watch it.
Dr. Pimple Popper, huge ratings. Huge ratings. People love that shit.
Yeah. So they said they can't get it out. They stitched me back up. So, and I can't grapple during that pass because it'll pop the stitches back open if I exert too much strength. So I actually avoided popping it from teaching judo, but I was making mashed potatoes one night and I was like, I forgot I had the stitches, and I was just mashing it real hard, and the top first stitch actually popped. So I actually super glued it back together.
Like a man. Yeah.
So now I just have to wait for a doctor's appointment, which will happen after I come back from Ireland in May. So it's like half the year is gone already, man. I like this is why it's like ruining my judo plans. Long story short, I need to get a scan and figure out what it is, and then most likely get another surgery from a general surgeon to remove the thing that's pressing onto my muscle, nerve. I don't know what it is, but it's affecting my grip. So,
all right. Yep. Well, I'm glad to see that you're not dead. You're not dying on me. All right. Not going to die on the table or anything. So, last episode, we talked about how the USA Judo Federation, the USJA, USJF, USA Judo, they had an agreement. It dissolved. It went its separate ways.
We didn't mention it, but I jokingly said it in the description. Like they did it to celebrate our anniversary.
Yeah, to give us something to talk about.
Yeah.
So, as we mentioned, when we first started talking about this, USJF said that if anybody would like any information about what happened, they would like to get the transcripts of what went back and forth, what went on, why things got disillusioned or dissolved, what we're going to call it, what happened. Anthony applied. Anthony emailed them, and I said at the time of recording, we have yet to get a response from them. It has now been 2 weeks because we're doing another podcast. It's been 2 weeks, and Anthony has
almost 3. Yeah.
Yeah. Has still yet to get a response from USJF.
It's not just me either. I was on Facebook and I was looking, I just randomly came across like USJF's Facebook page or something like that. And then there like at least 3 other people asked for it and said they didn't get his response. So yeah.
So they said they want to be transparent during the situation, let everybody know what's going on, what's happening, but they have yet to give us any information. So all that we know so far is that everything's separated. One thing that has not come to light, but a question I had about like, well, could a tournament be a USA Judo tournament and a USJF tournament, or a USA Judo tournament, USJF tournament, USJF or USJA? You guys know what I mean. These letters get so annoying sometimes. The only thing that's come up that's happened is that they had the what was the tournament that was happening? The Junior
Olympics.
Yeah, that was happening that week.
No, it was Youth Nationals.
Youth Nationals.
That's
happening that week, and that was the last week. They're like, this is the last week, joint. After this one, it's done. So something came out that's interesting. I'm going to get back to this because to me it's very interesting. The Golden State Open is a big tournament in not Golden. That's our tournament. I'm getting confused again. It was at Garden State. the Garden State Open is a USA Judo tournament. All right. But they put out a press release on their thing saying that this is still a USA Judo tournament. You must be a USA Judo member, but we are accepting USJA and USJF members to come and participate. But if you come and participate and you are not a member of USA Judo, you want to compete under your USJF, USJA certificates or your federation membership, you must sign a release saying that if you compete and you get hurt, you cannot sue us. You cannot come after us. USJA, USJF has to cover you somehow, but USA Judo will not cover you. So I thought
you also signing to understand your insurance is not going to cover, which is, I don't know. I think it's superficial because one, the insurance is basically useless. Two, we talked about that in past episodes. The insurance is basically useless, and two, it's like you already signed away when you sign up for the tournament. You already signed that you're not going to sue them. That it's a liability waiver thing. So you're just signing another thing.
And just for an update, as people know, Anthony has gotten hurt at a tournament and tried to use his insurance before. I tried to use his judo insurance, and it was one of those reimbursements. So, okay, well, your insurance and what your thing costs, let us know when you're done. And it was one of those. I don't want to say they brushed him off, but they brushed him off. They
basically took forever to pay out. I got sent to collections, and I had to call every week for a year for them to eventually get it settled. And think about it in this way. When you get hurt, how many times have you asked the name of the ref, asked the name of a competitor and their rank and who their instructor is, and have them sign off that you got hurt? Usually the medic does that, right? The medic does that to keep track that you got treatment. But when I filed for insurance, it's like, what tournament, what date, how did you get hurt? What was the name of the ref? Who was your opponent? How did you get hurt? Well,
what was the technique?
Well, they didn't ask that, but you get the idea. They made it extremely difficult. And even after I filled out all that stuff, I still got sent to collections. So yeah.
And so that's why Anthony,
all this is after I paid,
Anthony feels this way.
This is all after I paid $5,000 out of pocket already. So,
So when people get mad at us or send us emails about like, why does Anthony say this? Why does Anthony? But this is why Anthony lived it. He went through it. Luckily, knock on wood, I haven't yet. But even when I got hurt badly at a tournament, I didn't even go through years ago when I messed up my knee at California State Games. I didn't go through that insurance because one, I didn't know how, and it got very complicated when I tried doing it. And I didn't have insurance. So I had to use some free insurance at the time because I wasn't SAG yet. So I didn't have good insurance. I had just some minimum state insurance. And basically it was just like, they x-rayed me. Oh, nothing's broken. 6 to 8 weeks. Get out of here, son. Here's some painkillers. Get out of here.
Yeah, sometimes I know people who don't have insurance or have really undercovered insurance, like super high deductible, which is why I had at the time. I had a high deductible insurance. It feels like you're going to a backyard alley doctor. You know what I'm talking about? Like they stitch you up and make sure you're not dead and just like throw you out the back. So
I think I went to a veterinarian actually. I think there's a dog, some cats.
It's a South Park episode about that.
It was in Chinatown, a place that gave me some herbs to rub on it and stuff. So that's what's happened so far. I know we had some people send us information about what they think about it and things how stuff's done in Europe. One person has a great email that I want to talk about it more. I actually couldn't do a whole episode on it, so we might get to that in the future. Yeah. Don't think we're ignoring you, and I appreciate the shout out too. I do. Yep. All right. People say hi to me. I appreciate it.
So another back to the original thing. So it kind of shows it can be done. Like running tournaments, not going through USJA, USJF, or USA Judo can be done. I mean, we already know that because BJJ does it, right?
Yeah.
It's like they don't have to go to IBJJ after running a tournament, but it's whether you want to or not. And you just have to get the correct liability insurance coverage for the event. The other part I want to bring up is I know we talked about how Safe Sport all of a sudden got put up on was it Safe Sport? One of those
Safe Sports and Heads Up both got put on USJF and USJA real fast after the
was it
the thing.
No, it was one of them. But let me find the USJA email. Maybe I still have it. So anyway, afterwards, No, it was the safe sport was not available. It was the concussion. Concussion heads up was available and on USJF. So after we recorded that episode, USJA sent out an email saying, "We are pleased to inform you that we are establishing an account with the U.S. Center for Safe Sport. If you need to take Safe Sport, either the initial course or the refresher, please email support@usja.net on or after Tuesday. The USJA pays for each person who takes the course individually. If you can take it through an NGB, we would appreciate it. If not, reach out on or after Tuesday and we'll be happy to set you up." So this goes back to what I said when I did my USJA coaching cert. Like, I couldn't find out how to do it, and they told me to go through USA Judo to take it. Same thing with Scotty, same thing with Eric. They all did that, and a bunch of other people. So it kind of now I know why I had to make an account to take Safe Sport, because they're charging these organizations per person that takes it. So when you take it, it asks me which organization I'm taking it through, or which link I'm using it through. So when I take it through USA Judo, I'm assuming USA Judo is paying for my Safe Sport, which they did not require me to pay for. I just needed to make an account. Yeah. And I didn't even have to be a USA Judo member. So Eric is not a USA Judo member, and he made an account and took it. So, which makes me wonder, because I brought this up with Philippe. It's like, so you had USA Judo paying for all your coaches and members as Safe Sport payments, but Philippe's like, no, maybe they have an agreement to like give them a lump sum or like share the cost. I'm like, I highly doubt it, because otherwise when you sign up, it should ask you which organization you're from. Then that's how USA Judo would figure out how to pay back the USJA or whatever, something like that. Or maybe they did have an agreement, like, we'll pay for all of it if you do such and such and such. So all I'm saying is this doesn't make them look good for obvious reasons. So
it also comes back to in that email that USA Judo sent to everybody about how they feel, what was the word? I can't remember the wording, but it was like they feel like they're being gypped on certain things. Like they weren't doing their part like they're supposed to. And maybe this is one of them, like, hey, we're kind of paying for all your coaches. Yeah. You know, like we're paying for all your coaches and teachers and all this stuff. But what are you guys paying for? What are you guys doing right now?
Yeah. And if we're wrong, like, then make a statement, like, let us know, make it clear. Because it's really funny, because last election USJA had, they talked a lot about transparency. But I'm not going to go into the details. Like, it's easily all over the internet, but let's just say nothing's been very transparent. So, if that's not the case, then make it clear why, instead of just not saying anything, which is what has been going. So what's been going on. And I know in the past they're saying there's some litigations involved, so they can't say anything, but there's nothing litigious about this. So is that even a word, litigious? But there's nothing wrong about just like clearing the air here. So,
they both put out their statements. We read the statements on last episode. We did our own little detective work and our own little ideas about what we thought about what. More stuff has come out little by little. And like you said, USJF said that we're going to be totally transparent. Whoever wants these emails, these transcripts, just let us know. We'll mail them to you. 2.5 weeks later, still hasn't heard anything from them.
I mean, even when I saw it, when you make a statement like that, I already know that it's like they're not going to respond because otherwise you would just make it available, like online publicly.
Put the PDFs out there.
Yeah.
Put the file out there. Come on.
In the end, I'm just going to say it doesn't matter whose fault it is, because nothing really changes and they still don't do anything for any of us. So
yeah.
On to the next thing.
Anthony would love to get all the heat you can. Send him the hate mail. So we're going to get some hate mail for this, maybe some heat for this. So apparently there was a big thing happened in BJJ. So a BJJ instructor was rolling with a quote unquote beginner. I don't know. What we've read online. I don't know, people coming after us or whatnot. All I know is the guy was in a black belt. They're doing a no-gi class. And he was attempting a move that I've always thought was kind of a weird pull over, takeover, whatever. I don't know what you call this move. And the guy got hurt. The guy's neck got crunched or snapped. In wrestling, you might call it a stinger. but it was a severe enough one where the guy thought he was paralyzed.
No, he was paralyzed.
Yeah, I'm saying this. The guy was paralyzed, but he's gotten feeling back in his legs. Was it or what?
I think people were saying he can hike now and all that stuff, which isn't the point, honestly. Like he was quadriplegic for a while, so
yeah.
I'm sure even if you can hike, you probably there's long lasting effects, So, but that's not the point of what we're talking about. So
yeah, we're going to talk about we're not going to talk about how. So a lot of argument online was that he signed the waiver, he shouldn't be able to sue.
He's not a beginner. I heard the thing where they say he's not a beginner, which again I don't think it freaking matters. But yeah, it's more about we're not lawyers, so we're not.
Yeah, we're not lawyers. We're going to discuss the technique. Is it dangerous? How was it done improperly? Was it done dangerously? Because like I said before, I've seen this technique done before a long time ago. And I always thought it was a crazy technique that it does. I think it's crazy that it works in the first place. And I think it's crazy no one gets hurt doing this technique. But this is also me coming from a catch wrestling background. We do really hard neck things.
You guys do crazy neck cranks and stuff too.
Yeah, we do crazy neck cranks also. But I think with us also, we tap from it. I want to say we tap more sooner from it. Mm-hmm. Or if me personally, I tap easily to things. If I feel something's too hard on my neck, I tap soon because I know what can happen,
See, you guys do it as a submission, right?
Yeah.
And you also do it without throwing your whole body weight in the air for it. Plus, it gives a chance for you to tap. But in this case, when you jump through the air, there's no chance for this guy to freaking tap.
Yeah.
So
let's explain the technique before we talk some more about it. So the one that I've seen before. So guys in turtle position, you're on top of them. You don't got hooks in or nothing, but you got double underhooks. So you're underneath their arms, grabbing wrist control. Okay. You hold the person tight. You pull their head in tight right there. You put your chin in next to them from the head position, and you just roll their body inside using the wrist control, rolling their body inside, kind of over your shoulder, over your head. It shouldn't be directly on top of the head when I see it, but it happens. All right. That's how this situation happened. So you do this really weird thing. You roll and they roll with you. You force the weight enough where they're tucked in that they have to roll with you. It's a crazy technique. You can look at it online.
Yeah.
Anthony, you can provide the link to the one that
put in the description. They call it the BJJ people on the subreddit called it Leo Vieira roll, back take roll or something like that. And it's a video from 15 years ago where Leo Vieira takes Eddie Bravo's back in a no-gi tournament of some sort. I don't know. I didn't even have to watch the actual clip to know what they're doing mechanically. And I straight away knew it was a bad idea. And I think the technique is unsafe. And this is one of the reasons why, how people like to give a lot of, I'm not going to name who, but there's certain people we know that were like, what? That's a neck crank? You can't do this? What about this? What about that? I'm like, why are you so intent on finding ways around the neck crank? Like there's a reason why it's banned. You can't put pressure on the neck because you can't draw a clear line. Like where do you draw if you allow this, then where is the line where it's a clear neck crank or where stuff like this can happen? How about just no pressure on the neck at all? Like, for example, I know it's really, really safe to pull the head down during a triangle from guard, but we're going to talk about this is the topic of the episode. So we're going to talk about it because they actually talk about it in the referee seminar. But any pressure to the neck, even if you pull the head down in a guarded triangle in judo, is illegal. So same thing with guillotine. And it's because it leads to stuff like this. Where do you draw the line? Then you have to start adding exceptions like, only if they're in turtle and behind the back take and you can't use your body weight. You can't do it if the uke has his arm trapped, and you just start adding more and more and more crap to it, which is what the IJF does too, like no more udegaeshi, no more this, no more that. So it's just easy and safer to just blanket ban all techniques that have pressure on the neck, because the risk and the trade-off is someone is going to be paralyzed. It's not like an arm bar where if you mess up, you break an arm, which you can come back from pretty well. But the neck, you can't mess around with stuff with the neck.
Yeah. It's it's a thing where if BJJ wants to do this whole thing where they want to feel more legitimate or get legitimized by becoming an Olympic sport, there's going to be moves where the Olympics, the IOC is going to be like, no, that looks too dangerous. We don't want that. Or we notice that these moves right here keep getting people hurt. We don't want you to do that. There's a lot of
people who don't want to become an Olympic sport because of that, which I think is part of the problem, So,
yeah.
Because
let me get.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's continue about the technique first. Yeah.
So back to the technique. So we're getting off topic again. So with the technique, if you watch the video, I know, Anthony, if you could put a link up to the video also of that. Okay. So if you watch the video where the guy actually does technique, I can't see his arm placement correctly.
I'm not going to put a link to that video just because yeah.
Yeah, but Anthony's a squeamish. I'm going to say his right hand is underneath getting the hook. I can't really see where his left hand is exactly.
No, he trapped the other guy's left hand. So the left hand he trapped the left hand, which is one reason why this went crazy.
Yeah. So what I see in the video, and this is just me, just as a person that knows grappling, knows how the body works, knows how moves works. He didn't have the guy tucked in nice and tight like you're supposed to. So sorry, we're having a little technical difficulties, but like I was saying, the technique just seemed very loose to me. Every time I've seen it done in demonstrationals and actually in competitions, if the guy's really tight on the person's back, and to me, the way he just his right hand looked fine, his left hand looked loose, and his body, when he tried to do the flip over, it wasn't even on him. It wasn't tucking him in like you're supposed to. Like the whole thing about the whole move is just tucking those arms, tucking the body nice and tight so they roll over. They have nowhere to go. But with this one, it seemed like he was too loose, so the head's up. And it looked like you need to go sideways or forward, but the head had nowhere to go. Now imagine you're putting all your weight on someone's neck, all your entire weight on someone's neck, trying to roll them over. Now the whole thing, like I said, the technique is you tuck them in. The whole thing is a tuck. And I know people might say, oh, we do some wrestling. Yeah, but I think because in wrestling, we're more like on the person. Mm-hmm. We're more used to that. And I think maybe he was just in the moment, just going too fast. It's just too fast and too loose. And what do you think, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but from my perspective, again, is what the risks are, right? It's like the risk is a freaking broken neck, and you can't. How risky is it? What are the trade-offs, and how do you mitigate it? Like, can you bail out of this technique halfway? I don't think so. Like mid flip, like especially since the guy doesn't have eyes in the back of his head, he doesn't know you're jumping over until you're already up in the air. So, I don't understand why you'd want to do this. I don't know why people are defending to the death this technique, like online. Like,
another thing I was just thinking about right now, just thinking about the technique. Mm-hmm. Normally when this technique is done, the guy's in all fours or referee's position, turtle position. Yeah. When the guy did it in the video, the guy was pretty much flat on the mat, wasn't he?
Because he trapped the arm, so he collapsed.
Yeah.
Which is why I think if you have to be like, okay, I can only do this technique if he's not doing this, I'm not doing this, and also this and this are in place. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, he's going to snap his neck. Then why do it? Why do it in the first place? Even certain judo techniques that are legal, where you put pressure on the neck, I personally avoid it because it might not snap their neck, but it still makes people's neck hurt. Mm-hmm. But I accept that other people might do that to me, but then again, it's just going to be my neck hurt. But I don't want to do that to other people. So that for me, this risk is acceptable, right? But I don't think anything where you're basically throwing your own body weight and also the other guy's body weight into the air, basically potentially putting pressure on the neck, is worth it, especially when there's nothing in the line. But just don't do the technique. Like, I just also think what annoyed me is a lot of people called it a freak accident, which isn't a uniquely BJJ thing. Some people in judo will also call certain things a freak accident. I'm like, no, it's not a freak accident. You went too hard. Like, that's the most common thing, right? You went too hard. But they'll also do something entirely freaking stupid, like Tani Otoshi, right? If we tell you not to do Tani Otoshi and keep hurting like 3 or 4 people's knees doing it, that's not, oh, it's a freak accident. I don't know what happened. Like, I did a Tani Otoshi. It's like, no, it's because the technique is done. If it's done incorrectly, it's dangerous. Stop doing it. But if you keep having to say that, like, then it's not a freak accident. A freak accident, in my opinion, is I'll tell you some of the stuff I saw. Like there's actually a video of my old sensei, like both his legs broke. Someone did a
Kuriashi. Oh my God.
Someone at a tournament did a Kuriashi Harai, basically a hard, I'm not going to call it a sweep because essentially in tournament mode, it's like a kick, right? To sweep both his legs, and both his legs broke as they were doing the sweep. So that's a freak accident. All right. Also, I've seen someone did a sasai and then someone jumped over it. And then when he jumped over it and landed on his foot, so it's kind of like hopping on one foot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
His whole foot broke as he jumped up. So he most likely had a hairline fracture from something else, and then he jumped on it and it broke. So that's a freak accident, right? Doing this technique and then breaking someone's neck is not a freak accident. Sorry, that's not in my book. Is not a freak accident. So
would you call those those terrible judo BJJ videos I send you where the guy pulls guard and breaks other person's leg they sit on? Would you call that a freak accident?
Jump guard? Yeah, that's another good example is like jumping guard, right? Like jumping guard when like the risks, which is fine, but like jumping guard is dangerous. Everyone knows that. So why are people saying this isn't dangerous? But at least jumping guard, you're breaking people's knees and not their neck, So
I don't know. God, they both suck.
No, I'm saying they still allow you to jump guard in certain rule sets and certain tournaments, certain ranks, because again, the risk is you're not breaking their neck, you're breaking their knees. So you can come back from that pretty okay without heavily affecting your life. If you know what I mean.
I love how you think about that for a second.
It just kind of reminds me of, I'm going to call out one of my sisters here who I think listens to my podcast.
Awkward.
She drives like aggressive. Let's just leave it at that. So you know what I mean? Like the type that tailgates and goes in and out through traffic and all that kind of stuff. And she's gotten into so many car accidents. And every single time she's like, it's not my fault. Insurance is not my fault. That guy did this, that guy did this, that. I'm like, yes, I'm sure you're correct. It's not your fault. But you drove in a way that made it so you have no room for error or to avoid these things happening, because I've been driving for a long time. I've only gotten to 2 accidents, and both times it was getting rear-ended at a traffic light from someone that was on their phone. But most of the time I've got few close calls, but because I don't tailgate, I don't weave in and out of traffic, I signal and all that kind of stuff. So it mitigates. I have more room of error, margin of error to avoid these circumstances. But if you're putting yourself into this position where the margin of error is so low, and if you mess up, then you either get into an accident or break their neck, then it kind of is your fault, you know what I mean? So, yes, like it's not your fault that they ran a red light, but if you were driving like 75 miles, like 100 miles, 120 miles an hour, like then, yeah. So you get what I mean? So
no, I get what you mean. I get you. So just in our opinion, it's a pretty dangerous technique. And there's a lot of stuff, like I said, again, I do catch wrestling. There's a lot of stuff we do in the neck, but I think we tap a little sooner or easier from it than in BJJ, because BJJ doesn't see it as a dangerous technique. They don't see it as a submission. It's just one of those things, just be careful out there, I'm not, whoever you're rolling with, just be careful.
This is why I'm always more scared going to BJJ than judo, because 1, they don't teach break falls. 2, they don't have like a set technique. Like judo, we have like, okay, there's ogoshi, harai goshi, blah, 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 all, and then on. But BJJ is almost like a free for all. You know what I mean? Like you can do whatever you want, basically. Judo, at least we teach people these certain acceptable techniques, and we also say you can't do this, can't do that. But that's why I'm a little nervous. I also find it really interesting that people will always say judo is more dangerous, or have like, oh, when you get hurt, it's like catastrophic injury. But like at the same time, they'll say like, well, in judo, we can't do this. We can't crank the neck. We can't do that. It's for safety. So, but then they're like, oh, you guys are watering down the sport. Like there's watering down the martial art, not the sport. Like it's, if I can't risk breaking this guy's neck, then it's not effective as a self-defense martial art. Like
if I can't break his knee, what can I do?
Yeah. So I just find it really interesting I personally do feel safer doing judo. Watch me get hurt next week, but I do feel safer doing judo. I have to be really careful in BJJ most of the time. So,
all right, so that's going to go into our next topic. So a few months ago, you might see me post, or you might see some posts about that IJF was going to put out a new video about the rules and update the rules and stuff, which they didn't do, which made me look like a fool when I posted the video that was supposed to be updated. Instead, it was like a reviewer thing. It was like, oh yeah, we'll put an update to rules. They put out the old video. It's all inside there. Yeah. Fools read it, figure it out. And it made me look like an idiot. People messaging me about, it's the same video. I know that now. It was supposed to be updated. I'm sorry. All right.
There's Yeah. So there's they never ever tell you when they update the rules, never, ever. I had to hear it. I usually find it by accident online, or I regularly check the IJF website to see if they updated the standard sport organization rule set, or whatever they call it, the SOR. And then also Christian sent me the PDF file that I sent you. So this is how you find out. This is a problem of why the calls, a lot of referees at least I think in the local tournament circuit, are so out of date with rules. It wasn't too long ago, I heard someone tell me, I already said there's a referee that asked me how long golden score is. Not too long ago, someone told me 2 Shidos with the grab is a Hansokumake. And then I had that debate with Brian about the guillotine, so, and then they obviously all pull rank on me or something. Most of them do. So, but they really need to make it more clear. And speaking of getting more clear, the rule sets, this change that they've been adding in recently has been more clear. They actually clarified a lot of things, such as head diving. So, let's get into it. Yeah.
So someone that actually did something about it, which I greatly appreciate, was it was the European Judo Union. That's their thing, right? European Judo Union.
I wouldn't say they did something about it, but yes.
Well, to me, they put out a video demonstrating it and talking about it. So I think this was when they were at Portugal, which is a few months ago now, actually. Yeah. When they were in Portugal, they had the coaches meeting, the refs meeting to go over the stuff, because it's really just only a year to the Olympics, pretty much. It's only a year to the Olympics. So they got to get these rules in place, people to understand them so they know how to qualify and know what to do when they go to the Olympics. Okay. They need to make things in stone for this. And that's how our rules for judo, if you're a judo player, you know this, but if you're not a judo player, our rules vary every 4 years, because we have to change things for every Olympics. Pretty much something a little bit gets changed every Olympics. Yeah. That's why if you step away for judo for 5 years, you might come back and it's totally different. Something that was your favorite move to do might now not get you an ippon, or might be illegal now, or the way you used to do it is illegal. So what we talked about earlier was about how the neck cranking, the movement of the guy being on top of him, was attacking the neck. The first 2 hours, almost 2 hours, 2.5 hours, was just about head diving and neck things, and trying to put in people's head 2 hours of a 9-hour video. 2 hours. It wasn't fully 9 hours. The video's length 9 hours, but it was maybe 5 or less, maybe a little over 5 hours of the actual video. Was on neck stuff. And they get in coach's head and ref's head that if a person head dives, if their head touches the mat first, before their shoulder touches the mat, before their arm is up and touches the mat, if it is head first, if that head touches at all, a hair on their head touches that mat, it is a head dive. It is Hansakomake. And the reason we do this is because it may not be big in the US, but you have to remember, judo is huge in Europe, Asia, other countries. Kids watch this stuff. And if they watch their favorite judo player win tournaments, win medals, doing these head dive techniques, what are they going to do? When a kid watches football here in America, or watches basketball, and he sees someone do a slam dunk, that's what they're going to want to do. Okay. When they see someone break someone's ankle with a move, the move with a crisscross applesauce, kind of stuff. That's what they're going to do on the court. That's what they're going to do on the field. So the same for that in judo for outside the US, other countries.
It's not just kids. You'd be surprised how many students we have that actually PM me on Instagram, DM me on Instagram, and be like, "Hey, I saw this thing. It's so cool. How do you do it?" And I'm just like, "Oh, you mean the I'm gonna call Little Matthew.
Oh, don't be so mean.
He always sends me videos
John
of
Wick
people
stuff.
people doing one arm sode, like Hashimoto.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, there's a reason why only him and a couple other people do it, because a lot of other people, when they try it, they break the other guy's arm and get disqualified. So I had to tell him, you don't want to do it that way because it's really risky and you're not Hashimoto. And obviously Hashimoto himself also kind of stopped doing it recently, because I think over the last 2 years I saw him get disqualified for that throw twice.
Yeah.
So he started doing Taitoshi more often now, because that throw was getting him DQ'd when he was winning. So
and they had a whole section at those one arm techniques where if it goes to joint lock at all in the air during the technique during the fall, it is Hansakumake now. And to me, it's one of those things where, and it actually happened this weekend with was it Belovic and the Brazilian woman?
Belodi and Silva, yeah.
Silva, yeah.
Philippe was pissed off about that.
Yeah, Belovic came in with just a single arm technique, and Belovic sold it like she was on
Silva sold it.
Yeah, Silva sold it like she was trying to go to Oscars or something. Like she was trying to be in everywhere at once. Sold that arm and still won the tournament.
I understand. I understand it was kind of like diving, but after watching the referee seminar, there's a part where he talks about the Haragatame versus Wakigatame versus Udegatame. It makes sense. He's saying you don't, like you said, you don't have to actually do the throw. As long as you put pressure in the air, even if you don't get the throw, it's Kansokumake. So it made total sense why she got disqualified for it.
And that's something for you players out there that like doing Soda Goshi. If you do Soda Goshi and you're doing with the person's elbow up, so it's like an arm bar, if the ref sees that and the arm is bent up, it's going to be Hansakumake for you now. So let's just get to the first part of it. Let's get to the first part. So the first part, like I said, was just 2 hours of head diving. And it was anytime the head was touching the mat. What they did say is that if the shoulder touches first, that it was okay. But if the head touches first, it is not okay. If the arm is up, blocking the head, it is okay because you're protecting your head and stuff.
Yep.
And that was another one they said. There was a third one that they talked about. Oh, okay. So there's that weird one where kind of like a sode. It's a European style judo move. So it's kind of like sode where the guy picks a person up, get the arm around the body, and they grab the belt.
Yep.
That crazy one.
Yep.
If you jump in the air and do a front flip, but your head does not touch the mat, it's okay. That's
no, it's
equal.
not. No, it's not.
No. The first one they showed showed that the guy, he flipped in the air. Because I remember him saying this, like, this is our judo. Japan would not be happy about it, but this is our judo. And I love it. I love their new saying.
Oh my
Can we
God.
agree on this? Can we agree on this? I miss.
We can talk about the dynamic after, but it's
I miss the old a score or no score. I miss that. A score or no score. A score or no score. But I love, can we agree on this? Can we agree on this? No talking. Can we agree on this? That's my new hero right there. That's my boy. I like that guy. But they were saying that when you do that one, if you go first and your head touches the mat first, that's Hansakumake. And he said, you have to get this through people's skull that this is Hansakumake. I remember I
didn't see that part. I'm going to have to go back and see it, because as far as I saw, like any sort of head diving, even the ones where you do a forward ukemi roll, like a uchimata where you they showed a clip of a person doing like a koga style seoi nage where he goes heads first and do a forward flip, right, and lands on top of the person. That's a Hansakumake, because even though the head didn't touch the floor, they say if you do a forward flip, it's disqualification. So I'm really surprised that you're seeing the front flip when you land on the side. It's not, unless you go. I can see if you're doing it sideways, like at an angle, then it's okay. But if you're doing it forward, head first, like seoi nage, then maybe that's the difference. We'll have to go back and look at it.
Yeah, so that's one thing I thought was interesting, just because in judo we think of it as an everyone sport. So if the adults do it, the teens are going to do it, the little kids are going to do it, and then casual players are going to try to do it. I know we had a situation one time at our dojo with a member that for some reason just started doing head diving throws out of nowhere and did it at one of our small Shidos. And we were all like, oh no. And he was like, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Everything. That's what you did wrong. Everything.
And I think it was Dave Roman's interview with one of the Japanese instructors in Japan, where he said, like, when Hifumi Abe started becoming popular, he does this special Soe Nage where it's because he's like double jointed on the shoulder or something. So he can do it, the Soe Nage in a special way. But all the school students started copying him, and they saw like a huge increase. The data shows a huge increase in shoulder injuries because they were trying to copy Hifumi Abe. And I don't know how many, going back to the dangerous technique we were talking about earlier, a lot of people are like, I've done it 1,000 times, or so-and-so does it, like this top competitor does it. And we hear the same thing in judo. It's like, well, Hifumi Abe does it, so-and-so does it. It's like, you're not them, and you're not fighting for the Olympics. So, you know, like, so yeah, that's not a good argument, basically.
It's not a good excuse for me. When you say, well, so-and-so does it, you're not so-and-so, all right? You're not Eliadis, all right? You're not Teddy Rainier.
And the guy you're throwing has a 9-to-5 job tomorrow to go to. You know? Like,
yeah, all right. So another big one was the arm bars. So they spent a lot of time on the arm bar technique. So it was basically that it's a technique that I hate anyways. It's something that I've always hated in judo, that I never understand it, where people will grab a sleeve and turn the person inward. They won't grab the other sleeve or nothing. They'll try to do like a really bad sore, like a one-handed sore or something, which is an arm bar. And the refs and coach were talking about, was it over the top, like over the shoulder? And the guy was like, no, even if it's on the belly, even if it's like an ude style right here or this kind of stuff, anything that straightens out the arm in a throw is immediate mate hansokumake. Because in my eyes, there is no real technique. I know I might get some heat for this out there, people, but let me know. Show me a video. Show me a video where someone throws someone that way on their back, not on their side, not on their face, on their back, with a hand, with the same hand or same side gi grab when you're pulling them inside, and you're not grabbing the other lapel. You're not grabbing the gi. You're not grabbing the other lapel. You're just coming in to throw them. Show me that old school technique. Show me something that does that, because that is wrong. Because you're going to mess a person up that way.
I might get a lot of heat for this too, but what I'm starting to see and wonder whether it will affect is the Russian tie. On same side Russian tie. Shintaro shows a lot of like Georgian judokas do it, Russian judokas do it, and now I'm seeing it's becoming more popular because a lot of people, let's just say, in my opinion, they lose the grip fight, so they end up in that extreme stance position. If you do a throw from that position, when I teach the Russian grip, I always tell people, especially when they try to do uchimata from that position, because they stand on one leg and fall forward, you risk a chance of landing on the guy's, your stomach or chest landing on the guy's arm and arm bar in them and as you fall. So I wonder we're going to start seeing more of that and whether this would affect people's usage of the Russian tie. But that's personally something if I teach someone, I always tell them of the risks of that and be careful. So though I'm pretty sure it goes in one ear, it goes out the other side.
It goes in.
You're telling me
it goes in one ear
this guy's arm and throw him?
Yeah, it's amazing. But it's going to go in 1 ear practice, and then tournament go out the other ear at the tournament, and they're going to do crazy. So just letting you people out there know that they're going to start giving hansokumakes for this. So watch out, watch your techniques, try out for stuff, because it's funny because this is actually how I got hurt right before Winter Nationals. A friend of mine did a sore that was kind of bad. They didn't turn all the way. I landed flat. He landed on me. For me, it was an armbar. But whether they want to argue or not that I did wrong or they did wrong, if that was done in a tournament, it would be hansokumake. So you remember, just grab the arm and pull them inside. Mm-hmm. So another thing they were going over that is the patty cake style of judo. I don't know why it's so hard for people to understand this now, but once you grab somebody, you can fight a grip. That's fine. You can fight a grip, but you have to keep one grip. If I fight a grip and let go of you to disengage, that's a Shido. Okay. And I know some people might get mad about that, but they're talking about it's supposed to be even. Someone fights the entire time, they get a certain grip and you immediately break it and get away from it. What was all that work for? And that they're saying something about like it was the average match takes like almost 15 seconds to get a grip.
Yep.
So if you're fighting like this the entire time, you can almost do like a minute and a half or 2 minutes of just getting grip and breaking. And we only fight for 4 minutes. We only fight. We only fight for 4 minutes. That's almost half the match right there.
Yep.
So they want people to grab and keep grabbing. So if you want to let go with one hand, that's fine, but you got to keep one hand either on the sleeve or on the collar, on the back or something.
Yeah,
and we're allowed to do
if you break it, you have to grab it back, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Immediately. And we're allowed to do any grips now again, as long as we're attacking. Positive grips have to be attacking stuff. We can do crazy grips. We can grab the belt as long as we're attacking. So people can't be like, oh, well, I can't grab this now. I can't grab that now. The only one they're not allowed to do still is grabbing inside the sleeve.
That's another example of people not keeping up the rules, is because I've been seeing a lot of comments, especially it tends to be older, higher Dan ranked people on Facebook. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, every year they make the grips worse and worse. Like it's just going to they're not going to ever go. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's been it's 2023 now. It's been 13, 14 months since they loosened up the grips rules.
Yeah.
Like, why are you still saying that? Like,
you can grab any grip you want right now. I can grab behind the head as long as I attack. You can do any
grip break you want now too. You can do two. Well, not the foot. You can't use your knee. You can't use your knee. Yeah. You can do 2-on-1 grip breaks now.
That's a funny one also, because they talked about grip breaking. They're now going to crack down on the sneaky little leg break ones where people will get a grip, bring it down to their leg and use their kind of little grab. They're just like little sneaky moves that people do. That's like, I don't like talking about because I want people to do them personally.
Yeah.
But if you watch the video, there's these little sneaky ones you do with your leg that they're going to start catching now. And remember, if you're at a big tournament, you're going to have the ref inside the middle and probably 2 refs on side watching and maybe someone watching the monitor. So try to be sneaky. Watch out now. All right. So got to get positive grips. You can't grip somebody and let go. And I know they're enforcing that because there was somebody that did that at a tournament. I want to say it was recently or not that recently, but people were very surprised and very crazy. Like, oh my God, they got a Shido for letting go. It's like, you're not allowed to let go like that now. You have to engage. They're tired of people just disengaging the entire time. And I get it. We are action sport. We are judo. We're supposed to be action out there. We're not laying prey. We're not just hanging out there. We're action. That's the whole thing about judo. Judo and wrestling, we're action the entire time. That's our thing, So I love that. I love that one right there. Breaking grips, getting Shido for that. What was one of the things that you liked they talked about in the video? I feel like I'm talking too much.
No, it's good. I think it's good that we're going bit by bit. Why, instead of asking me what I liked in the whole video, why don't we go through the next thing? Did you have the next thing, or did you want me to bring up the next?
It's one of the next things that it was a very small segment, but this is something that we need to put in judo, and I kind of see it in local tournaments that I think I get mad about it. Is sneaky little moves on the mat about unsportsmanlike conduct.
Yeah, I like that section. You show people pushing, kicking people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there are some blatant ones where someone they would be grip fighting or whatever. They're off the mat. They would disengage. And the video, they showed the girl pushing the other one. Like, oh, come on. That's super blatant. Like they would show some little knee nudges or something on the ground that was nudging with their knee. And they're like, no, you see that? You see that? Hansakamake. I'm like, yeah, this should be like that. Okay. This is sport. Yep. We're not, I know some of us are a-holes like me, and some of us are big D's, but it shouldn't be like that when you're on the mat. There shouldn't be the whole thing where you're pushing off the person or knee nudging them on the back or something, or push them blatantly from the back. That shouldn't be in judo, especially in high level sport judo. Yeah. Biting people in the calves should be immediately hansakamake. All right. And a suspension. Oh, we're talking about Bruce Lee again. We're talking about Bruce Lee books. All right.
No, we can't. Obviously, there's a lot of clarifications, and that the seminar video was 6 hours long if you get rid of the breaks, and it was 2 days of 6 hours, so it's 12 hours total. We can't go over everything, so why don't we first go over some of the important clarifications on the slides that we saw. One thing that I've been saying for a long time, and the local referees screw us over every single tournament because a lot of our smaller judokas like to do kochi makikomi. Is that you're allowed to touch the leg if you have a primary grip somewhere on this. So let's say I do kochi makikomi and I have a grip. Both my hands are on my one side sleeve, and then my oh crap! I unplugged my headphones. Hold on a second. So you get both hands on the sleeve, and then as you go down the Kochi Makikomi, if your elbow touches the knee or your forearm, it's okay, assuming you have grips on the sleeve. You can even pinch down, like the old style. You can use it to pinch down the knee on the leg. It was still okay as long as you have a primary grip on the sleeve. This was actually told to me by Sensei Gary Takamoto. This was the IJF ref here in the Nanka area. He told me to this during one of Philippe's coaching clinic, but this was not on the rules. I couldn't find it anywhere on the rules at the time. And he told me that this is the case. As long as you have a primary grip, you can touch the legs with your other parts of your arm. But then again, I see it go to local tournaments and they don't call it that way, right? But now this is on the rules. On the slides though, which is not mentioned in the rules or slides, but Gary Takamoto explained to me when I asked, was that as long as your arm grabbing the leg is not a primary mechanic. What he means by that is you can't have like two fingers holding the sleeve and then use your elbow and like to pinch onto the leg. So now the two fingers is no longer your primary grip mechanic. It's the elbow and the leg that's the primary grip. Again, not in the rules, but this is what was told to me. Okay, so that's one clarification. Second clarification is what is newaza? I went over this in class. Like they actually explain now that a lot of people think as soon as your knees touch the ground, then it's newaza. It's actually not that simple. For the cases that they showed was a few cases that they showed, not four, is that if the tori is standing, then uke has to be on both elbows and both knees for it to be considered a newaza. So tori would still be tachiwaza, but uke would be a newaza, and now tori can grab uke's legs. So if I drop down to my knees and then I stand back up, you can throw me again for a throw. But if I drop to my knees, you can't stand there and grab my leg, and I can't grab your leg because I'm still in tachiwaza. I'm not going to go over every single detail, but the other one that they clarified was that if both of us are on our knees, then we're both in newaza. So we don't both have to have both of our elbows and knees touching on the floor to be newaza. So this clarifies a lot of stuff about when you can grab the legs, when you can't grab the legs, when you can choke people, when you can armbar people, that kind of stuff. It really clarified it for me until I watched the referee seminar. One of the examples that they used was, is this a valid transition into armbar? So the sequence was basically a guy did a drop seoi, and then he stood back up and then dropped to his back, basically pulling guard into Jujikatame. So it's like it almost looks like a pulling guard armbar, but the guy had a drop seoi attempt before that. And I at first thought it was going to be not okay. I'm like, no, he stood back up he dropped to his knees, stood back up into tachiwaza, then dropped to his back pulling guard into Jujikatame. But the head ref was like, this is okay because it's not a direct drop into Jujikatame. He did a seoi nage that disrupted the other guy's balance first, and he comboed into I guess falling onto your back counts as going to newaza, and then doing Jujikatame. So you can't directly fall on your back, but if you drop to your knees, get up, then fall down, and then do a Jujikatame, it's okay. So that's still kind of unclear to me, but I just accept it for what it is. So
I did like how they also, going with that, is that they went over pulling guard positions again, because people get sneaky, people try to get smart with pulling guard. And they were showing some demonstration of like the guy pulled guard, but immediately went to arm bar. And I was like, they said it was supposed to be mate and it should be shido for immediately pulling guard. There was nothing about him breaking balance or doing a first technique. And then they showed a second video of someone doing a half kind of yoko tomonage, but it was more just like rolling yoko tomonage into an arm bar. So they were saying that also should have been yelled mate and given a shido because he didn't do a full technique. He didn't attempt a full technique. He barely put his foot up to a kind of fake yoko Man, it was a beautiful move though. Like it was like if you saw it, it'd be like, oh my God, it's like I want to give him something for it because it's such a beautiful move. But in our rule set, he didn't attempt anything. He did not attempt anything for Yoko Tomonaga. He basically kind of did a Yoko pull guard, fakie into a rolling arm bar. So remember, if you're remember in judo, you cannot pull guard. I know people are trying to get sneaky with it, what people are going to try to do, especially when we get BJJ players trying to come in judo and they try to pull guard or try to do bad Tomonagas or bad Yoko Tomonagas and stuff. If you get caught, you're going to get a Shido, and don't get mad because this is in the rules. I'm telling you right now, it is in the rules, and they're going to get stricter with this stuff. And that's the whole thing. When they do these big rule meetings, guess what? They're strict for the first few months. All right. But at the end, I'm going to tell you, it's always up to the referee. You know, we can talk about it till we're blue in the face, but it's up to the rest to give these things out.
We should do some short videos on this. I mean, like all these examples of this, it's a lot, and we're just going through the important ones. Mm-hmm. So next one I want to talk about is osaikomi. Like we went over it again in class. Like you can no longer use your legs and let me read it exactly what it says. Control in newaza using arms or legs around the neck without the opponent's arm inside will be considered as mate. Mm-hmm. So basically, if you do kesugatame, but the arm is not in front of your body, it's behind your back, and you're just hugging the guy's neck, that's mate.
So if you so get the visual, if someone has you in a headlock, just a basic bully choke or headlock, where you want to call it a bulldog thing. Mm-hmm. If you're just grabbing the headlock position in kesugatame position or any position for that pin right there, it is yelled mate because the person. This is where it comes about protection of judo again. We're protecting you. Now, if I have all my, if I have all my weight on your neck right here and I'm holding you tight and you're just rolling back and forth, what are you doing? You're putting pressure on your own neck. You're going to break your own neck trying to escape this pin. So to protect kids, to protect teens, to protect the casuals, to protect even the advanced adults from themselves, we're just saying, hey, that's mate. We're not going to give you a Shido. We know it happens. We're not giving you Shido for it, but you're going to lose position and get stood back up. And I hope you got a Rosati before that or something. But if they get their arm out, and this is the kind of thing where you get to now play the game a little bit. So if someone has you in kesugatame, if I get my arm out enough to shrimp out, technically that should be mate, right?
Yeah, I guess basically. But I don't see that happening.
That's going to be an interesting little gameplay now.
Yeah, but I would if I got the arm out, so if the person I'm pinning got the arm out, I'd transition to something else anyway because I'm losing control at that point. The other example they had was basically a Yoko Sankaku, a side triangle hold where you don't have the arm trapped inside. Your thighs are crushing the guy's neck. Basically, that's the other one. So I mean, we see in MMA people do the scissor choke. Is that what you call it? The head scissor choke. Mm-hmm. So it would be like that.
But you don't see that a lot in judo anyway. If that's not,
you don't see it a lot. That happens.
Putting it out there to let you know, hey,
so
it's like, hey, if you get a plan, like I'm gonna try this. No, not allowed. Do we agree? Can we agree on this? Can we agree?
Yeah. The other thing they clarified too was the kata sankaku, the head. What do you got? Head and armpit control when you. Mm-hmm. I don't know what they call in wrestling that position.
It's a head and arm position.
Yeah, the head arm position. You cannot throw people standing with that. But if you're in newaza, you can turn people over with that. Mm-hmm. There was this whole long discussion about it during a referee seminar. People were like, what about this? What about that? I'm not going to go over the whole thing, but it's really interesting.
But again, it's about like a half Nelson, throwing somebody with a half Nelson.
Yes, exactly. Again, it's about the neck.
Yeah. So again, it's like throwing someone to half Nelson, which is illegal. Remember, in judo, we're not allowed to throw with the neck because it is your neck versus the entire person's body and your body on top of them. Okay. And we're about protection. And it's going to also go into, if you want to go into now, the guillotine position, which is always a gray area in judo, which for the most part, in my opinion, it's always been like something that we teach. We're allowed to teach and stuff. It's one of our moves, but it's not allowed in competition. But then I'll see people do it in competition and don't get called for it. So, and the way they described it in this clinic was that if I'm flat with the person and I do not wrap my legs around their body, like the sneaky way I showed you how to do it before.
Yeah.
But if I'm flat with the person, I'm not putting weight on the neck. I'm just pushing it down like a guillotine position.
Yeah.
My legs are not wrapped around the body. That is legal. As soon as I wrap the legs around.
Before we continue, for those who do BJJ, the mechanic that he's talked about is very similar to what they call, I've heard it called a north-south choke or the gravity choke. Like I've heard it called, it's basically that doesn't put pressure on, doesn't crank the neck basically.
Yeah. So it's just about in judo, we're protecting the neck. So there's all this gray area about guillotine and stuff. And like I said, to me, it's always been illegal in competition, but legal thing for us to teach. And I try to teach a very safe way to do it in case you get in a bad position, because I've done it before to people and not gotten called on it.
Yeah.
But it seems that I do not wrap my legs around the body. Yeah. I wrap my legs kind of like inside your own leg, kind of like doing a reverse Saturday Night Ride, kind of, I guess you'd call it.
So I continue. I thought you were.
No. And the rule was that if you're on the ground, it's okay. Okay. On the ground, it's okay. If you get to like middle position where you're not in newaza, kind of like in between tachiwaza, it is mate. You lose position, you stand back up. If you do it standing, it is automatic shido.
That's if you do standing is mate. As soon as you get the kata sankaku position standing, it's mate.
Mm-hmm. It was okay. Standing, it was mate.
No shido, it's just mate. Yeah.
Okay. So
if you throw someone with it, it's hansoku make.
Yeah, that part. Okay, yeah. So if you throw it from standing, it is automatic hansoku make.
But I really want to go over the guillotine thing, because this is the thing that is debated about all the time. You mentioned wrapping the legs around the body, but I have to really clarify the wording here is kata sankaku grip in newaza with blocking the opponent's body with the legs is hansoku make. So because I had people were asking me, well, what if I'm not wrapping my legs around? I just like go to the side and then put one leg over. I'm not blocking. It's like, no, you can't. Yeah. It's not about the wrapping. It's about blocking the body. Just any sort of thing where your legs is touching the body to finish that guillotine is going to be illegal. Obviously, even if you don't have the legs there, if you crank the neck, crank the neck downwards, it's still illegal because it's a neck crank. But in the referee seminar video, the volume was really low when it demonstrated it. But the flat version, where the guy basically his legs are flat, he's like, yeah, that's okay. If you're flexible enough and your legs are long enough to do this, then he said it's okay. So you can do a guillotine safely in that position. Not safely, legally. Sorry, I didn't mean to say safely. Legally in that position. So I was just having a debate with someone about how all guillotines are banned, but yeah.
And another thing they were talking about was this is another rare place. This is a rare thing that happens, but they're gonna put it out there just in case it does. Just protect your butt. If you can wrap your leg around their arm. So imagine, instead of wrapping the legs around the body, you wrap your legs around their arms also in the guillotine position. That's a mate immediately. It's a rare thing. It's a very rare thing that happens. It's because they can't protect themselves. And for that position, if you lean back, it's again putting that pressure on the neck to hurt somebody. And again, we're all about safety. So yeah, it's a very rare position, but people start getting ideas. But what if I wrap their arm inside there? Then I'm not directly around their body. No, again.
So one thing that actually also I want to bring up that it's been in the rules for a long time, but it was clarified in the seminar was that leg entanglement, grapevining. So if, for those who don't know what grapevining is when you, let's say you do oshigari or sotogari, but your toes kind of wrap around to the other side. So basically it's kind of like what they call the lockdown position, similar to in BJJ. But it used to be, the wording used to be you can do it as long as you attack with it, right? And don't do kawazugake. Kawazugake is that you're grapevining and then falling backwards. So you're basically reaping the guy's knee again with your own and their body weight, right? So
if you ever watch pro wrestling, it's a side Russian leg sweep.
Yep. So someone said that someone on Reddit said all leg entanglements are illegal now. And then I was like, that's not true. Like, blah, blah, blah. I linked a screenshot of the rule. And then someone else linked a comment. It was like, well, actually, the referee seminar doesn't agree with it anymore. They said like any sort of entanglement. And I was like, that doesn't sound right. Why would he keep it in the rules when the rules were updated literally last week when I saw this? So I went to watch the referee seminar part of the video where it said that. And to clarify, a lot of people know Kawazugake as in you stand next to the uke side by side, and then you both fall backwards. That's the traditional one. But what the referee seminar video was saying was you can be in front of the person and do like I hate using Ochigari, but front Uchimata style of falling backwards. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so you entangle, standing in front of the guy, Ochigari position, entangle the leg, and then you kick your leg forward and arch backwards. That's still Kawazugake. That's what he's saying. That is still Hansokumake. What he's not saying, which is what some people misinterpreted that part of the video, is that you can't entangle the leg at all anymore. You can't entangle and do ochi. You can't entangle and do osotogari. That is not what he's saying. You can still do all those things. There are some other smaller parts, but we'll talk about it towards the end. But what's coming down the pipeline? I'm sure if you watch a video, he heard a lot about, we'll have to talk about it after the Olympics. Like, we'll have to talk about it after the Olympics. So they don't want to change way too much, right? What was it, like less than a year before Olympics is going to happen? Yeah. So they're going to revisit a lot of stuff about this.
Yeah. And this video was mostly just to verify and get people in their heads, like, you have a year, less than a year to get your players ready for this. Okay. These are the rules. Okay. Like, I know we've had COVID's messed up a lot of stuff. We've had things get changed. Tokyo was crazy, but we got to get back on track, guys. And Paris is right around the corner. Right. So that's why we're doing this rule video. IJF was supposed to make one, made me look stupid, but it's all right. European Judo Union, they got my back.
So do you want to, is there anything else you want to go over before we,
God, I know it's going to be something else I'm going to think about later when we're done. I'll be like, this rule. This rule right
here. Like I said, we can make short videos about it. So,
yeah. Was there anything else big in your head, Dad?
No, I think those are the main clarifications. The other big stuff are basically, like I said, things that are coming down the pipe. Right. So, yeah, let's talk about that before I talk about the other interesting parts of the seminar that has not related to the rules. But what's coming down the pipe was there's a lot of stuff about, again, neck cranks. Like they showed there's a turnover that from the kata sankaku position that I teach beginners that a lot of Japanese people use, where you end up in a kesagatame. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, I'll link it in the description just so people can visually understand it. You do the kata sankaku, head and armpit grip, and then you turn them over so your shoulder is now underneath the guy's neck. And then if you crank your shoulder back, you're cranking the neck, basically. Yeah. So that was brought up a few times. One is, should stuff like that be legal? Because it's putting pressure on the neck. Because when I teach this, I always tell the beginners, I'm like, this is easy, but do not sit back. Do not crank the guy's neck. You really need to lean forward and have your shoulders face forward so you don't crank the guy's neck. But obviously in competition, people want to do that, right? So that's one. This other one, the example they use is someone that did a ura sankaku. I think they call it a reverse sankaku in BJJ, but it's actually a rear. You could do the triangle from the back. Where basically your thigh or your crotch cranks the guy's neck from behind. They used another example where that's still allowed in the current rule sets, and it was called an ippon. But they're saying later down the line and after the Olympics, they might talk about cracking down on things like that are technically neck cranks, but they don't call it a neck crank yet because of stuff like that. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, it's because I can understand the reverse sankaku, the one that you're talking about right now. I can absolutely understand how that can be called a neck crank, because the way I do it, and I actually do this technique. So I've actually showed you the mean way of doing this from catch wrestling style. Yeah, the way you did it,
my neck hurt for a few days after that, actually.
Yeah. So when I was demonstrating it to you, it's like, I can totally understand how that could be a neck crank and stuff on somebody. So to me, just to be fair, it's one of the things that we can have in our system. We can teach people, but really just to be fair, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna be these refs or these coaches are like, oh, I got to protect my techniques for my guys. I'm going to argue. Oh, no, it's not. No, I'm blatantly going to say, yes, it is. It is a neck crank and a technique shouldn't be done. Now, if I'm flat with the person and submitting them, yes. But if I'm putting leverage up on their neck, the way the person was in the video and the way I was showing you how to do it meanly, yes, that's a neck crank. I should be yelled mate right there and lose my position.
Yeah, and I honestly, the martial artist side of me really wants to keep these techniques because I love the rear triangle. And also that turnover that I teach the beginners is easy to do and it's effective, but I teach them how to do it safely. But I also understand how hard it is to make the line. Like how much is that a neck crank? Like if I tuck my chin in, if I get caught in that and tuck my chin in, is that a neck crank? What if I'm really flexible? You know, like how far does it go before it's a neck crank? You can't, it's really hard to draw the line there.
It's like the thing with the guillotine. If I start putting pressure on the neck, cranking it up and stuff, then it should be mate. Like I said with the sankaku. If I'm flat with the person and they're flat and they're the one putting it to themselves, and the rest should be able to tell, like, hey, he's flat. He's not putting his hips into him to neck crank him. But if I'm up on my hips right there, up on my hands, putting pressure on the neck, like, come on.
Yeah. The other part that they said might be down the line is osaikomis that are where you're technically under the person. Yeah. So think of like Yoko Sankaku, side triangle position before you end up on top of the person's where you're still on the side. I showed you a screenshot of a picture from the seminar where they're like, this is osaikomi, where they basically have one leg under the guy's body and another leg on top of the guy. So kind of like what do you call it? A body triangle? It's a body scissor. It's not even a triangle. Body scissor from the side. And then one arm is pinning the guy's shoulder down. He's like, that's osaikomi. I'm like, in my mind, that's not osaikomi.
I know you don't like it, but to me, I see it as osaikomi because the person's controlling the other person. That's one of the big things about judo, about judo pins. It's about controlling. It's a controlled pin. Okay. I'm controlling their body and I'm putting their shoulders in the mat. I'm controlling them. I get where you're coming from.
No, my problem with that is the consistency of the problem. Consistency of the calls. So if that, in my mind, if that is a osaikomi, then when I do the side triangle, the Yoko Sankaku, I shouldn't have to go on top and grab the leg. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah,
but that's not how they enforce it. You have to go on top and grab the leg for it to be a pin.
See, that's always been a weird thing when you get Yoko Sankaku like that. If my body is 45 towards the mat, it's not osaikomi. But if I turn over, my body's now 45 towards their body or towards my belly's now towards the mat area, then that's osaikomi. It's a weird thing like that. I've never got there understood because I'm showing control. That's the weird thing. I'm showing control. I own the person. It should be osaikomi no matter what.
Yeah. So if I grab the belt and I pin their hips too, then it should be osaikomi. But I mean, when I was taught this technique by Nicholas Gill, I asked this question and then they're like, oh, you have to be on top of the person for it to be osaikomi is what they told me. So I was like, okay, then I'll go on top and grab the leg, just like how everyone does it. Right. Yeah. And this is how they enforce it in IJF tournaments too. When you get the Yoko Sankaku, they don't call osaikomi. You have to go on top of them for them to call osaikomi. Yeah. So why is this weird side body scissor thing osaikomi?
In the picture you sent me in the video and stuff, yes, one leg is underneath him, but the rest of him is 45 or belly on belly on top of the person for the most part.
I think that's. I'll just accept them as one of the referee stuff that doesn't make sense. But for me, I can see. But I get both arguments. I totally get both arguments. But I can see how that one's osaikomi. And like I said, it always bothers me where if you're in sankaku, just like if I'm leaning backwards on the person, but I'm controlling him, it's not osaikomi yet. I have to turn over pretty much belly down to get to be osaikomi. It's just so annoying. Yeah, but I get it. I totally understand. Yeah, so
I see.
So basically, down the pipeline after the Olympics, they're going to talk about addressing the issue of pins where you're underneath the person, basically, where their back is not touching the mat. That's what they're going to do.
Or how it's going to be is probably like it should be at least 2/3 of their back must be on the mat or something.
Yeah.
Because think of it this way. If I'm in tate shiho on you, okay, I'm on tate shiho, and you buck up and I happen to get my hooks way underneath your body pretty much, like underneath your butt or underneath your tailbone.
That's the other example they used. That's the example they used. They also said so it's like a tame where your thigh is underneath their back. Like,
yeah. And it's like, to me, like that, my legs are underneath them should not be counted.
This is why we're going to start getting into the dynamics of the whole seminar, like how the IJF people interacted with the senseis and the referees. It's really weird because they're like back to the body scissors pin. They're like, if this is not why is it not Osaikomi? It was like, because he's on the side. He's like, on the side, you mean like Kisakatame? I'm like, yeah, but Kisakatame is you're on top of the person. Like this is different. So,
but with the pins, when they continue it, they went to the whole part of, there was some very bad pins that they were showing. Like, this is bad. If a person's on all fours pretty much, and they have like just the Kisakatame, but they're on all fours, why is that a pin? If there's no control of the person on a mat, why is this called a pin? Yeah. And they showed 2 videos of one where the woman, I think it was a women's match, where she never went on her back, but they called it like she was on her side, but she was never on her back. And then she got on all fours for the most part, but they called it a pin the entire time. They're like, this doesn't make sense. Why is this a pin? And then another one where the person was not on their sides, they called pin, but then eventually went onto their back like 7 seconds later, I think it was, because the guy was counting the entire time. And I thought it was really funny. Got to the person's back finally after 7 seconds, said, okay, there. Now it's Osaikomi. The 7 seconds before that was not. That was control time of them fighting. Let them fight, let them work, but don't call pin when it's not a pin. And I was like, exactly. Because I've seen that sometimes where a person's like almost on their belly. It's like, yeah, one shoulder might be on the mat, but the rest of their body's on the mat, like belly down for the most part.
That's the next thing I was going to bring up was like, sometimes we see them call Osaikomi where they're like just the side of their shoulders touching. It's like, still Osaikomi. They're going to change that too. They're going to clarify that is what they're saying.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that they clarified, actually. That should not be Osaikomi.
Yeah. So, and it's like, call them out, please. Can we agree on this? Can we agree? Can we agree on this?
It's funny because he asked that, but basically he's saying like, are any of you still like, are any of you...
anyone got something to say? Anyone got something to say?
So, I dare you, like kind of thing. So
a score or no score? A score or no score?
Yeah, the dynamic of the whole thing was really weird because one instance that really pops up in my head is how they were disagreeing on control. Because before I could get into that, I'm not going to talk about the Kaishiwaza, the counters. That whole section, I was like so hard to call. The calls are so hard to call. I agree with the ref. It's really hard to call. Even watching an ultra slow motion, a lot of the stuff was hard to make calls. What do you denote control? Like when are you controlling the counter kind of thing in the air? Mm-hmm. But I noticed some of the senseis that disagreed with the certain things that the IJF referee said was basically they're still using a really old school definition of ippon, like of control, force, line. Like they're using the old definition, old school judo, while these IJF referees are usually obviously using the newer standards, right? Mm-hmm. But anyway, they were saying, I disagree with you, and then I'm sorry, that's not an ippon in my book. That's just not enough control. Like I remember that, and the IJF ref is like, you know what? Give the mic to the French. Give the mic to the Frenchman. I want to know what they think. Yeah, he basically said, "The guy, you're stupid. Like, let's give it to the real judo country."
I love it how they would start calling out countries and stuff. I go to like Sweden or France or so they were like calling out certain countries after a while. Like, and does so and so have anything to say about this? They're like, "Oh man, no, sir."
It's just
I gotta go to the restroom real quick.
I mean, I know for example, a lot of German people, they always joke about how Germans don't have humor and stuff like that. But like, I'm just like, is this how they talk to each other? Like, holy shit. Like,
it sounds like a bunch of Anthonys.
So
is that where you start doing your class? Or you start asking people, can we agree on this? Can we agree? Can we agree on this?
Yes, no. I might start doing that. So it was just really weird how the dynamic was like that. And it's basically, I've watched referee seminars in the past, but I usually fast forward through the parts and just hear them talk about the gray area calls. But I always thought it's like a panel of people that sit together and vote on whether things are certain ways. But this is just the guy saying this is the way things are. If you disagree, I'll try to explain it to you, but then
I got no time for your shit.
Yeah, basically there's no voting on these calls. And some of it is like, I agree, like this person clearly has no control over the throw, yet you call it a counter or something like that. So, yeah, but it's hard to call those counters. The dynamics are just really freaking weird when through the whole video.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I can't tell if he's like joking or like actually like saying people are stupid, you know what I'm saying? So it's just really interesting.
Like I said, it's just like talking with you.
All right. Is there any other stuff you want to go over?
No, I don't think so. I think we talked about most of it and the big things to have people watch out for. And it's just, remember, in judo, it's about protecting the neck. Always protect the neck and head. All right. And remember, we're throwers. And if you get thrown, it's not just your weight landing on yourself. It's the other person's weight, or vice versa. When you throw somebody, it's not just their weight. It is your weight landing on top of them also. And get good, clean judo. If you got good, clean judo, good throws, you don't need the head dive. You won't be landing your head anyway, so it shouldn't affect you. The only people it's going to affect is ugly throwers.
Yeah, especially for people.
I'm a lot of heat for that now.
Especially for people who argue about like the martial arts self-defense aspect of the sport. It's like, would you head dive on the straight?
Yeah,
I don't know. I wouldn't do that, but
you head dive on some concrete. Yeah,
I would stay. I'm gonna. That's why always when I do judo, I always try to finish my throw standing when possible, or at least. If I fall, I try to drop to a knee because it's more controlled fall versus an uncontrolled fall. So, yeah.
All right. So is that it, Anthony? Anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah. So I still have to record the Ukemi videos, but like, let me know about whether you'd be interested in the rules, the rule clarification videos, because the stuff that the IJF and the NGB should be doing and aren't doing it. So there's a market opportunity for us.
Is leaving up for Tatami Talk. Yeah,
we'd sell it on Judo Fanatics as a DVD instructional. Like
no, this will be our first Patreon. This will be our first Patreon. Okay, this is our first OnlyFans.
That's our first OnlyFans. Don't get fucked by the IJF.
Hey.
Don't get fucked by the local roughs. Buy this instructional.
But again, it also always comes down to, and I said it during the middle, I'm going to say it again because I want to specify this. We can talk to a blue in the face about what the rules are supposed to be, what they're supposed to look like, how it's supposed to be done, but it's up to the refs to enforce them. And every region, every place is going to have their own idea about what it's supposed to be at every level.
I mean,
okay, so it's up to the refs. It is always up to the refs.
I've also seen the refs that tell me the rules call the opposite call too. So like, no,
I know what you're talking about. That was something else. That is something else. I'm not gonna say what obvious thing it was. It wasn't actually a technique rule. It was more like a tournament rule thing, but because it'll make it really clear who it was. But yeah, they'll tell you one thing but act another way. So yeah, it's always happens. All right. So please remember to like, share, and subscribe. You can follow us on YouTube at Tatami Talk. You can follow us on Instagram at Tatami Talk. You can follow me on Instagram at @Jerry_1. You can follow Anthony at Anthony Throws on Instagram. You want to send us any emails, just things you want us to talk about, things you want to let us know about what you think about the podcast today, or any topics you want us to talk about, like Anthony's in these videos. Just hit us up at tatamitalk@gmail.com. Anthony, am I forgetting anything?
Nope.
All right. So with that, don't forget to
slap the mat and don't bridge your neck out. So protect your neck. Don't forget to protect your neck. All right. Seriously.